All right. Ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. Hi, my name's Evan Campbell with Indestructible Art, and I'm here with Nick. And Nick worked on a game called Shovel Knight. What's going on, Nick?
Hey, how's it going?
Can you tell me a little bit about Shovel Justice?
Shovel justice. That's the justice that's metered out with the only kind of justice that can be metered out with a shovel.
Okay.
Unique to Shovel Knight so far.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
That was actually written really quickly for our pitch video that we did for Kickstarter, and I wrote that really quick, and it was like very temp, and I expected it to be changed immediately, and then it just stayed in.
No, yeah,
People love it.
I just want to know more about the Shovel Justice and how I can bring it to the masses. So you made Shovel Knight. That game is a pretty successful Kickstarter. You guys obviously put a lot of care into what you're trying to do. Can you explain exactly what that is for people who haven't been here at IndieCade and had a chance to play your game and talk with you guys?
Yeah, so Shovel Knight is the story of a I don't know, a small blue knight
With a shovel.
with a shovel on a great quest. We started the game trying to figure out a way to make an entire game around the down thrust from Zelda 2. So like that Zelda 2 down thrust is really mechanically it just feels great. As a player, you're enjoying it. We like the combat from Zelda 2. We're not big fans of the level design. One of us is, but that's not me. And so from there, we have the down thrust from Zelda 2. You had the idea that maybe we should be like flipping guys over to down thrust their soft underbellies, and that motion of like doing a down thrust and maybe like flipping them over felt very much like a shovel. And this is all like this concept came up in the course of a single lunch conversation. We're talking about the game, talking about our ideas, and then all of a sudden we just started laughing at the idea of a knight wielding a shovel, and then like, oh yeah, then like all the bosses could be knights, and they could all be themed towards their specific personalities, and we could rip off Mega Man just a little bit more.
So you're telling me there might be a Rake Knight somewhere in there?
No, I think Shovel Knight's the only like tool-themed knight we have. The other guys are like, the Treasure Knight's the underwater guy. He's like, he kind of looks like a big daddy, but he's got an anchor gun arm. There's the Polar Knight. He's the big snow. He wields a snow shovel, and he's sort of like I don't know, like maybe in a past life they were rivals at one point. There's a Plague Knight. He throws bombs. He's like a plague doctor. There's knight, and each knight is specifically designed to be just an interesting encounter. So there's the fire guy, the poison guy, the gameplay archetypes that you would find in probably other RPGs.
So I've noticed a strong theme among Kickstarter indie games, particularly a lot of people referencing Dark Souls. What's the deal with that? How come everybody loves Dark Souls so much?
Because it's so good. I think what it is really that Dark Souls took a new approach to how to teach the player about value and how to teach the player about loss. When you die and you have to get those souls back, you have that point that's halfway down the level. You have to progress to that point, and you have to like perform just as well as you did before. It doesn't let up, And so like that system of value, when you get those souls and you're like, oh yes, I have my 20,000 souls that I lost. Those souls are so precious to you. You can, and conversely, when you die before you get there, you just throw the controller against the wall and you're furious because they meant something to you. I think what Dark Souls does really well is figure out a way to balance value and death, and I hope that we can approach that a little bit with our game, making sure that death isn't just with lives, and it actually goes back into the play of the economy of the game, and that all works together in a very harmonious system.
Sure. Could you maybe explain a little bit how that works in a 2D setting as opposed to, Dark Souls is a third-person game?
Well, yeah. Dark Souls, the gameplay is all in 3D. It's your third-person perspective. It's a totally different game. The tone is very different. But you can still teach the player to value the things in the game. You can still teach the player that the things that you hold on to are important, that you need to save them for later. And you can still teach the player in very metered ways. Like you can build that tension with the player, and that's really exciting to do with any game, really.
So in terms of progression, it's mostly just that mechanic of trying to hold on to the things that you found and not losing them after you die. How does that work in Shovel Knight? If you die, do you lose how many? Because in Dark Souls, right, or Demon Souls, you die at one time, you get that one shot to get your souls back. And then if you miss it, it's kind of over. What's the deal with Shovel Knight in that regard?
It's a little more forgiving. So right now we have it, and we're still iterating on this, but right now we have it so that you lose half your stuff and it sort of flows into the air. If you die in a pit, the your bags of money fly out of your body and they start floating around you, and then you can go back to that position. Or if you just get murdered by a bug or whatever, then your bag just fall on the floor. And so half your money goes onto the ground. We're not sure if we want to make it so that you can always come back to it, or if it's just a one-time thing. We're still figuring that out. But losing half your money is a big deal. We want to make sure that a new player can go through the game and use that money to buy upgrades that they need, because they're the player that's going to need it most. But a experienced player will be able to navigate through the game and do well and hold on to that money
for a longer period of time.
A lot longer period of time, yeah.
What kind of upgrades can you get?
Well, you can. We're talking about making the health upgrades, so you can get more health. That's sort of like one of the easy ones to keep players that need it to keep coming back. Maybe shinier armor, you take less damage. Maybe a better shovel, so you can, I don't know, at full health you shoot a shovel beam or whatever. There's all kinds of stuff that we're talking about, but nothing that changes the core mobility of what Shovel Knight is. It's a very pure mobility. He jumps, he down thrusts, and he attacks with a shovel. And we don't want to change that too much. We have one ability that pulls you forward, 5 blocks when you use it, but it doesn't change how you interact with Shovel Knight too much, and so that's really important to us.
For some of these upgrades, are they going to be visually represented as well? I think that's a really awesome thing. So
yeah, absolutely. Like one of the things that we have with our palette system that we are implementing is that we could change the color if we needed to. We could make his horns blue or his armor red if we wanted to make it like the upgraded armor. Additionally, like there's Shovel Knight is a very simple game. He has, I think, a total of like 50 frames, like at most, and so we could just redraw all of it, to make it like spikier or have wings or whatever. So that's all on the table.
That's really awesome. Something that's interesting to me, I guess, is that you guys are pursuing this retro look, but obviously you're kind of cheating in some regards. It's not like strictly NES Palette or whatever it is. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like, where are you guys maybe like bending the rules a little bit?
Yeah. So as you can see from any of the gameplay, it's 16:9. So it's right off the bat, it's more than 4:3. It's more than the traditional CRT size television. We are using the NES Palette, but we aren't strictly holding to it. We have a few extra colors in there. There's a deep red and a deep purple that are featured that really add to the darker levels. And it was such a battle, because we wanted the darker levels, like the cave, to feel like it's a cave, but like you can't do that with this. All of the colors in the NES palette are full saturation. They're as bright as they possibly can be. Right. And I guess that was intentional, but it's hard to make a moody kind of game with it. And there are some examples, but we chose to just kind of stick with the main palette plus the extra couple colors. And then other places we're cheating. I mean, there's more. We don't pay too much attention to sprite limit. I mean, we do in terms of design, but we aren't afraid of having a big hulking character or a giant background piece guy who's shooting things. Characters have more than 5 colors, some of them, but as soon as it starts to feel like, oh, this is like not NES, this is more SNES, then we try to pull it back a little bit. So it's a weird balance that we're hitting, but I think it's doing pretty okay.
Right on. What is one of the things that excites you guys the most about Shovel Knight?
Wow, that's a good question. I really like, so far, we've been designing these bosses, and they've been really exciting. One of our stretch goals was playable bosses. You can play the game, the proper storyline, that Shovel Knight went through, as one of the bosses, or as 3 of the bosses. And we just put out the vote, last week. And we've been seeing people vote on who they want to be and who they want to play as, and it's really cool to see. We have a list of just what these gameplay types could be. This is the glass cannon. This is the guy that he lives on money, and so if Treasure Knight, if his armor, when he takes damage, he's losing money, and when he loses all of his money, he dies. And so that was one of the cooler ideas, I guess. We're just trying new things, and it's cool to see people latching on to gameplay concepts and making them live in Shovel Knight and really able to internalize it. And I think it's really exciting to see that interaction.
What's the difference, do you think, between, and I mean, maybe this is a weighted question for you guys, but there's a lot of Kickstarter stuff going on now, and I mean, it's definitely a big theme at IndieCade. It's definitely a direct way to get funding for your game if you're trying to make it. What do you think the difference is between Kickstarters that make it and Kickstarters that don't?
I think what I find the Kickstarters that I want to support are the games that are the Kickstarter pages that really bring me into the game. So when I look at that page, I see gameplay, I see the world, and this is going to sound weird, but I don't necessarily care about the dev team. When we were making our Kickstarter, we had shot just hours of footage of ourselves. We were like, oh, we'll cut this down to a minute. And it was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. But, after we cut it down, we had a good set of just like us talking and feeling like, we know what we were talking about. And then we just had our game, then we had the gameplay, and our plan was to have a half and half. And then we were like, oh God, after the gameplay, that's the fun part. Like, why have the part where we're just talking? And I like the personal aspect of a Kickstarter, and I like the way that you can kind of get to know the team. But the game is the most important thing. The game is what you're pitching people, right? When someone's weighing that value of their game, they're looking at the game itself, not necessarily the team behind it. There are exceptions to that, obviously. With Inafune's Kickstarter recently, he basically sold it on his name alone, and his past amazing work of his past. But it was really like it's Inafune Kickstarter, like get in on it. And I think though that the general rule of thumb is sell the game, make sure people want to play it, make it unique, make it have a hook. I'm blown away by Hyperlight Drifter as a recent Kickstarter.
Definitely.
And the day two, he has like $50,000 pledged to it. And I think it was all just the game. It was the music. It was the atmosphere. You really felt like you were in that universe as soon as you turned it on.
It looked like a game that was done almost, right?
Yeah, totally. It was, and you knew exactly what it was like trying to be. You felt the epicness of the big guys, and even before that, when I go to a Kickstarter, I don't even look at the video at first. I look at the page. I look at the pitch based on maybe there's the one line thing, a cool image, and maybe something will get me, and then I'll look at the video. But for the most part, like, you got to sell it throughout that whole front page.
How has the Kickstarter experience been for you guys? Is it taking up a lot of your time? Is it being a big pain? How's just that overall process?
Yeah, it is a big pain, but it's worth it. I mean, it's a much bigger process than we wanted. We had anticipated. We had thought it would take us a few months, like a couple months to prepare. It took us eventually 3, which is okay. It lined up with PAX, and then it took us a lot of time to actually just do the Kickstarter. There were 5 of us working more than full time. It was like 7 days a week, just constantly on the Kickstarter, either answering questions or working on updates. We were doing daily updates, and it just took everything in us, and it was way surprising. I think when the guys that did the Mighty No. 9 Kickstarter, they felt the same way, and they had a much bigger Kickstarter to manage, and of course they were all exhausted by the end of it, and you could tell in the little end cap video. But like it's a very big task, and either you're really successful and you're answering a million questions, or you're not doing well and you got to like contact a bunch of press, and you're always out there, so you're constantly just throwing yourself at the Kickstarter for 30 days, and it's nuts and intense, but it's a lot of fun. You get to talk to people, and yeah, it's really a crazy experience that I wouldn't have given up.
My last question is about platform. You guys are coming out on Wii U, and you had some other stretch goals and stuff. What's the choice behind that? Like, what was the decision-making process like behind what platforms you wanted to be on?
Right. Well, we knew that we're emulating an NES-style game. Of course, we'd want to be on the Nintendo platforms, and we knew that before we had launched a Kickstarter. We were talking to Nintendo beforehand, getting that process through, and a few days into the Kickstarter, we were able to announce that we're going to be on those platforms because like the final paperwork finally went through, and that was our initial goal. We knew we wanted to be on Steam as well. And we wanted to just have a general PC release so that everybody could play it. But beyond that, we want to be on all kinds of platforms. We are slated only for a few right now, but in the stretch goals we got Mac and Linux as well, and so those will be on there. But we want to branch out as far as we can. The initial release, we're hoping just to hit those 4: the Wii U, 3DS, Steam on Mac, Linux, and PC as well, and also just a DRM-free copy. And but beyond that, I would love to be on Vita and PS3 and PS4 and all that.
Sure. Right on. Well, thanks a lot for talking with us, Nick. Your game looks awesome, and I can't wait for it to come out.
Great.
Hey.